Welcome to Gaia's Love, a podcast of brief messages to help humanity bridge the gap to the new earth. My name is Vivienne Gerard. It is my delight to be a scribe for consciousness today, sharing the wisdom that flows through from Source. Here we go. Episode 251. It is Wednesday. Here in Cincinnati, it's a little cooler, still pretty warm. It looks like it's about to rain, kind of cloudy, but sunny and hot still. So, yeah, we're Wednesday, halfway through the week, and there is a lot that is coming up for people that I'm talking to. It's a lot that is being felt. Some of it in the conversations I'm having, people are feeling quite a bit of intensity in energy. And so, yeah, right, first we exhale and pause and come into this space together, knowing for right now we're going to have a little bit of a pause from the activity and the busyness and the chaos and perhaps even the intensity, and tune into this vibration that I'm going to be offering you. So yesterday I shared the chapter from my book that is my soul story, and what I was sitting with today was an urge or a calling to better define the three energies in the triangle that I described in the book. So we had Source, Gaia, Earth, and humanity, creating this triangular flow of energy, and some of the flow has been disconnected or perhaps gotten a bit convoluted in the history of humanity here on this planet. And what I thought would serve would be a little more explanation or reflection, my perspective on how would I define Source, or the way that Source energy moves. How would I define Gaia, Earth, and then how does humanity play into that from a conversational standpoint, not from the way that I shared it in the book yesterday. So what I think we're going to do is Source today, Gaia tomorrow, and humanity on Friday. And it feels really exciting to me to drop into that kind of a discussion or contemplation with you. I mean, my favorite topics. My favorite topics. So it feels really, really powerful and invigorating and juicy, awesome. So when I was thinking about today and how we would start with Source, there's a card in the Osho Zen deck that is literally called The Source. And it's one of my favorites, of course. So I went to the card to look at it. First, I checked to see if I'd shared it in this space before, and I don't think that I have. I don't have it written down that I have. If I have, you'll hear it again. But I thought I would start by sharing that and then offer some reflections. Okay, so this is the card, The Source, from Osho, from the Zen Tarot deck. All right, it is literally a picture. You can't quite tell if it's the sun or an eyeball. It sort of looks like it could be a mix of both, and it's just layers radiating concentric circles that are reds and oranges and yellows, a little bit of purple, this white hot light around it. It's such a powerful card just to even look at. So I'll post a picture of that over in the Soulshine Tribe if you want to see the image of the card. Here's what it says. The Source. Zen asks you to come out of the head and go to the basic source. It is not that Zen is not aware of the uses of energy in the head, but if all the energy is used in the head, you will never become aware of your eternity. You will never know as an experience what it is to be one with the whole. When the energy is just at the center, pulsating, when it is not moving anywhere, neither in the head nor in the heart, but it is at the very source from where the heart takes it, the head takes it, pulsating at the very source. That is the very meaning of Zazen. Zazen means just sitting at the very source, not moving anywhere. A tremendous force arises, a transformation of energy into light and love, into greater life, into compassion, into creativity. It can take many forms. But first, you have to learn how to be at the source. Then, the source will decide where your potential is. You can relax at the source, and it will take you to your very potential. The commentary which describes the card, it says, when we speak of being grounded or centered, it is this source we are talking about. When we begin a creative project, it is this source that we tune into. This card reminds us that there is a vast reservoir of energy available to us, and that we tap into it not by thinking and planning, but by getting grounded, centered, and silent enough to be in contact with the source. It is within each of us, like a personal individual sun giving us life and nourishment. Pure energy, pulsating, available. It is ready to give us anything we need to accomplish something, and ready to welcome us back home when we want to rest. So whether you are beginning something new and need inspiration right now, or you've just finished something and want to go rest, go to the source. It's always waiting for you, and you don't even have to step out of your house to find it. So for me, what does source mean? How do I define source? I described it in the podcast. I read part of the book, the introductions from One Day Gaia's Gifts, where I describe source as breath and light and love and you and me. But in a discussion format or in a conversation, if I were asked, what is source? What is source to me? There's words that I feel would define it even more. So source is the original energy from which I believe we all were created. And that energy took form through light, through sound. And so for us, source can be experienced through light, through the sunshine, through turning on a light, through the imagery of light. It can be experienced through sound. There are sounds that have us feel separate from our source, and there are sounds that feel like they bring us even closer to our source. And then breath, when we choose in the physical to take our first breath, we are separate from the original source we were created from, because now we're our own individual human walking around on this planet. When we take our last breath, we go right back into that non-physical experience of source again. And so in between, from the first to the last breath, we believe we have this experience, we feel like we are separate from the source that originally brought us into existence. But all of that it's an illusion. When we breathe, we are breathing in air, and air is coming from energy. It's coming from the planet creating energy. So the air we breathe in is source. The air we breathe out is source. There's a way to finally integrate or understand at a cellular level in our bodies that every single thing, every single moment, every single experience we have is source moving through us in a physical body. There is absolutely no separation. And yet our human journey, it typically begins with the illusion that we are separate. And so we feel that separation and we struggle with that separation. And at some point, hopefully, we find our way back to this realization there is no separation. So when I say that, often in a conversation, it sounds very philosophical or like, what is she even saying? What does that even mean? And so what I thought might be helpful is to explain how I've experienced it in my journey. The other night when I was getting ready for bed, there was a story that I wanted to just look at in my journal from way back, and it was about a friend of mine who had passed, and I knew I'd written about it, and I wanted to go back and look. And so I was paging through different journals trying to find where I had written it, and in the process of doing that, I stumbled across my notes from this course that I took many years ago in 2013 that was called 30 Days to the Divine, a beautiful course by Sway Spilkin. And I started it, and I did some of it, and I didn't do all of it, and I had all these notes that were sort of scattered in my journal. But there was an invitation she offered us to write a letter to God and say whatever it is we wanted to say. I have grown up with different definitions of God, and some of them are religion-based, and some of them are philosophical, spirituality-based. And so when I received that invitation, at the time I had just moved through a divorce. I was starting a new relationship. I had just left a corporate job and was beginning this energy coaching world that I now live in. There was a lot that was changing in my life, and the course was so powerful. It was so helpful for me to tune into what's my definition of God or divinity or source. How would I feel and explain that if it wasn't based on what everybody else thinks it should look like? And when I wrote that letter, what happened this week as I was looking at my notes was just this absolute full circle moment. And so I'm going to share that with you. The letter I wrote, part of it, I'm going to read to you, was from December 11th, 2013. And it says, this is directly to God, divine, whatever my name for that energy was at the time. What do I want from you? I want to feel connected. I want to feel held, protected. Let me have a channel, a way to communicate with you that feels direct, clear, open at all times, abundant, loving. Let me see you in my life, loving me and healing me. Because a lot of what I shared in this letter was, where are you? Where, if I am supposed to believe that God is always with me, where are you? Because it looks like my life is chaos. It looks like everything has fallen apart. And I can't see or feel you anywhere. I can't feel like I know what I need to be doing because it's all coming from outside influences in. So where are you, and how are we going to find a way to communicate? When I was reading that this week, I was just stopped in my tracks. Like, I have created that. It took me a while. It took me many years, and it took a lot of focus and attention and practice and trying different things and learning to meditate and then changing how I learned to meditate and going to workshops and going to ceremonies and trying to figure out, which mentor is guiding and which one isn't. And it was a journey. And what I know absolutely when I read these words in my journal was, I have created and received exactly what I asked for. And it's 1,000,000 times better than I could have ever thought when I asked for it. All I knew is I felt separate, and I didn't like the feeling of being separate from God or divine. And over all these years, what I have realized is I was never separate. I have always had that source energy within me. And it's a choice to tune into that and to listen and to trust what messages come through and to follow that guidance and suddenly watch how life takes a whole different turn. The things that I focus on now and talk about now and share now, they come from this reconnection to source. Everything that I have created in my work, in my business, this podcast, the books, the festival, the healing, everything has come from this conversation I've had within myself with the source that guides me. And the only way to get there is to start somewhere, to start listening, to create a routine, a discipline that allows that channel to open and allows that flow of energy to consistently be coming through. This is why when, for example, Wayne Dyer, a brilliant author, speaker, spiritual guide, when he started to tune into how he was connected to his source, books would just flow through him. He talks about how he would wake up 3, 4 in the morning because that was when he could feel that channel at its most pure transmission, at its most clear way of communicating with him. There was nothing to distract him, and so he could just sit in that quiet space and receive this flow of words coming through. It's a discipline. It's a practice. It's a choice to decide for ourselves. I am not separate from the source that created me, whatever name you give that source. I am not separate from that, and that energy, that love, that creation is inside me at all times. And so when I choose to pause how busy my life is and just sit and be still with that energy, I'm going to get better and better at understanding it. I'm going to get better and better at receiving more of that flow of love from God, divine, source, creator, one, all, whatever, universal consciousness. It's whatever name you give that energy. It becomes easier, and it becomes more powerful and more peaceful. And what has happened for me, as I have learned to trust how that energy flows through me and allow this energy of source to come through my crown and flow through my third eye, my heart, out my throat into this phone. This phone has recorded so many messages from source divine. As I allow that energy to flow all the way down and connect in through my feet into the earth, I am grounded, I am steady, centered, exactly the words that Zen card offered. I am grounded and centered within myself. And so I trust that the energy that's moving through me serves me. And when it serves me, I know it serves everyone around me. And so this connection, this love that I feel for what I call source, because I feel like all other names are too limiting. As great as the names are, I love the name God and divine and creator. I love all those names, and yet source, it to me feels even more powerful than any of those other words. And when I trust this is good, this is right, this serves me, and I tune into source energy, it just continues to multiply. My body becomes stronger. My mind is clearer and faster and sharper than it's ever been. The love that I feel through my heart, it's not always mine. It's source moving through me. Sometimes the things that I say in healing sessions or meditations or conversations with people, they're not words that I would know or choose to say, and yet they serve with such love because they're coming from the source energy that moves through me. What word would I use? The nuance of it that I would add is that when we trust in that way, when the discernment I have is that it is one with me. It is not separate from me. Sometimes when we talk about the channel being open or communication flowing, there's a way that we separate ourselves from that experience or flow of energy, and so we can perhaps withhold the ownership or the responsibility that the words we're saying are our own. So for example, if I'm in a conversation with someone and words are coming through me and I know they're coming from source through me for the person that I'm in conversation with, I own that I say those words. The source that is moving through me is one with me. It's not something that is being done to me. It's not channeled in a way that it's not part of me. And so that perhaps has been one of the biggest gifts in my work, is to integrate the way that energy flows from source and to offer it as a gift from me always. To be able to say, the words that I know I want to say and allow them to be my words flowing out. When I create these podcasts, for example, I know Source is moving through me, and yet I own every podcast that goes out. These are Vivienne's, my soul words and energy that are being emanated. And so I share that as a way to perhaps encourage the deeper integration of how we define Source, God, divinity. You've perhaps heard that phrase, divinity in me, I am the divine. I believe that. I believe every single one of us is divine, has Source energy within us, which makes us fully connected and integrated to everyone. And that changes the game. It changes everything. How can we hate another or persecute another or ignore another when we are all from that same Source energy? It would be like me cutting off my leg. Why? I am one with my body. It's the same with all of us as a humanity. But humanity is for a couple days from now. Today we focus on Source. Source, and then tomorrow Gaia, and then Friday humanity. I trust my ramblings of how I experience and define Source offers you an introduction or a pathway into how to define it for yourself, knowing that it's so unique and individual and glorious for each one of us that there's no imposing our definition on another. It's simply always an invitation to explore it more for ourselves. Yeah, a lot of energy. I'll post the picture in the Soulshine Tribe and allow it to guide you into your own journey with Source. Thank you for tuning into this vibration of pure love. I invite you to join me in aligning with the optimal health of your mind, body, spirit in the virtual community of Viv's Energy Gym. You can learn more at mysouljourney.com. Let's take this message of Gaia's love out into all of our relationships and communities today. So much love from my heart to yours.